Mic check. Morning Masters Podcast, your host, main of course. Across me, I got a special guest, Miss DANI Parks. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Nice to have you on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Have you ever done one before? Like, how many podcasts you done?
I've done about, probably 3 or 4 podcasts by now.
You feel comfortable doing them?
Yeah, of
I know
course.
it's a new thing. When I started doing podcasts, when I first started, people didn't know what it was. You had to explain them what it was.
Yeah.
Now everybody know kind of the gist of it. It changed over the time. Before it was just audio file. Now it's like you gotta do video, gotta do snippets, gotta do teasers. So it's a lot more to it. It definitely done evolved. But
that's why I was thinking like it has definitely evolved from just the audio to now.
Right.
Video.
I miss just audio because it's so easy. I could do podcast every day. With video though, you gotta take it home. You gotta try to edit it, light it up. Then people gotta look a certain way.
Right.
I done did podcasts in pajamas. People don't have whatever they want to have on. But you gotta make sure they right. And so definitely setting up and scheduling is definitely different now than when I first started. But I've been able to adapt, so it's all good.
Oh yeah.
So how I normally start this? So just tell me, the audience, people in the room, whoever, a little bit about yourself and where you're from and your upbringing.
Okay. Well, my name is DANI Parks. I live in Augusta, Georgia. I tell people I'm pretty much from, it's like a between Germany and Georgia. I'm a military child. So half of my life was spent in Germany, especially the latter part, the beginning and the latter part. Then like middle school was in the States, Georgia, Colorado, and then back to Germany. So,
okay.
Yeah. And then I'm also a veteran. I'm a brow artist. I'm a cosmetic and paramedical tattoo artist. And I also have a company called I3 Brand Coaching and Management.
When you say veteran, you were in the military as well?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay. What branch were you in?
I was in the Army.
What made you join?
What made me join, pretty much to get out the house. I had, sad story, but I got accepted into Full Sail in Florida, but I couldn't pay for it or anything like that, so I decided to go into the Army. My first choice was Marines, but then my brother kind of talked me into, at least if he was like, if not the Air Force, then just go in the Army. Don't do something so crazy like Marines.
Nah, I definitely understand that. So, moving around a lot, do you think that helped you in life, like not being in specifically like one area all your life, just having to move around?
It did help me a lot, especially when it came to making friends. I can go and network and make friends pretty much with anyone. Moving around a lot, you kind of adapt to that. If you want to be a loner, then you don't adapt to the moving. But if you want to adapt, it's good to just get out there and just be yourself.
How do you like Augusta? Like, and I know you told me you went a couple places. Did you come here based on military, like the branch, where you like migrated here through military, or just you found it?
Yes, I actually chose this particular duty station because it was close to my parents. I'm one of those people like, I want you to be close, but not close enough. I'm 2 hours away, so you can't just
like pop up.
You didn't pop up 2 hours away. So my dad was actually in the military at Fort Stewart, so this was the closest base to him.
Well, with that, I want to ask this question because I asked all my guests this, and I'm trying to build a compilation at some point. If you have an answer, you don't have an answer, let me know. But I asked all my guests, like, what does Augusta mean to you?
What does Augusta mean to me? When I think of Augusta, I think about family. That's pretty much what comes to mind first. That's one of the reasons I stayed down here. It's like there's a lot of things to do here. It forces you out of your box. It's not like Atlanta where everything's just thrown at you and you have to kind of decide what you want to do. Like in Augusta, you have to actually search those things out. And it forces you to get out your box, go talk to people. If you're interested in poetry, I tell people, I was like, there's a lot of stuff to do here in Augusta, but you have to find what interests you. You have to actually go out there and seek it. It's not going to just be in your face.
I always tell people, you'd be amazed at the stuff, like people that live here will tag a bunch of people like, hey, where can we do this at? I'm like, you live here all your life. You know they had this here?
Right.
So you do have to go out and find it yourself. Augusta is like, it was a couple years ago, it was voted like the number one retirement city. So when you think of it as a retirement city, you understand why you have to go find them things. They're not going to find you. It's not Atlanta, it's not the city. It's not Brooklyn, New York. It's not LA. It's not Miami. It's not those strips. it's a place. It's a nice. Well, I love the town though. I like the culture here. It's a divide definitely, but I do think if you can work your way around it, and with somebody like you who's been different places, you have a different outlook on things. So I do think in order to like really understand Augusta, you got to leave and come back, or you have to like have a different perception of different places. Because my view of this and somebody who's living all life view of it is totally different. I love it, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so like I feel like I'm from the best city in the world, but I also feel like I love this city just as much.
Right.
But you'll find that people feel like you have to go to Atlanta to be successful,
No,
or
you don't.
Miami or LA, and I don't feel like that. Maybe because I'm from a place that people will go to be successful. So I don't know, but I do think it's all about perspective and just how you brought up, because that changes your mind, your influence.
Right, and it's all about opportunity. Like you need to create your own opportunity or seek out opportunity from others. So
right. Well, I want to get into some of the things you do. So the first one I want to get into though is vision and development strategies. So and a lot of things I talk about when I do my solo ones and I talk about stuff is usually from a situation of like multiple conversations and not getting through to people. So I try to get through them by talking to nobody. Sometimes that works. Like I find if you're talking to somebody, it get argumentative. So if I feel like I just say my piece and let it go, usually they'll get it. And sometimes people try to pay me for time. I was like, I want to meet you this, I want to meet you that, but I'm not that. Like you vision development strategist, I don't do that. I don't feel like I do. I probably can, but I'm not in that profession. So if you can, like, tell me, like, what does that mean? How you got into it? Like, what allowed you to be able to not give yourself, but carry that name rather?
How I got into it, it's just just being like you and I were both creatives. Right. So with me, my mind is always going. So anyone can come up to me and be like, oh, I want to have an event, and I want the theme to be like, Paris and Jamaica. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Got it. Boom, boom, boom. This is how you can do it. So people come to me when they're stuck. They have a vision, but it's not completely clear to them,
right,
or they have an idea, but they don't know how to execute it. So they'll come to me and I'll just help give them clarity and a strategy on what to do. Now, whether they take those steps or not, that's on them, but just actually clarifying their vision, making them see it from, a different perspective.
Right.
So,
well, let me ask you this then, because this is a little bit different question. I feel like maybe I wouldn't call myself that. Maybe I can't look into that because I had something similar like that. People will call me when they stuck on an idea or something like that.
Yeah.
So maybe I can't have to look into it. I'm going to have to
build
my
look
resume.
into it, because to me, it's like it gives me it helps me to, I guess, release all of the creative stuff I have in my mind, and it actually helps me to focus more on my stuff. So when I can help you, then that frees my mind. So I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me get back to this, and then more ideas come for my own brand. So I love the vision strategy sessions that I have with people.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because what I wanted to ask was, do you have times where, because as a creative, like, you have so many ideas going through your mind, you kind of you only really focus on ones that you currently dealing with at the moment. Like, like say somebody want to throw a party like that, right? And you might have a party in mind, but right now you're not in party mode. You're just doing other things. You speaking, you're doing this, that, and third. But then they come to you with this idea, and I guess they're stuck, and helping them, you like, it's a good idea. Say they don't use it, right? In your mind, do you feel like, is it okay for you to use that idea now, or you just kind of like scrap it?
If it's okay for me to use it,
right.
Oh no, I scrap it. Like,
no, I cannot use the idea, but I cannot use that, not their totally idea. But let's say it's something you helping somebody with, and they just don't do it all together. But you like, that is a good idea. Would you feel uncomfortable like going ahead and doing something like that, or is like you just let it go, or would you work with them to go ahead and do it?
I wouldn't use the idea because it wasn't mine. Not because it was mine. It's just it fits them for their brand. So if they use it, they use it. If not, I have a billion other ideas on events, down the line. So I don't use it. I'm like, man, that was a good idea. You should do that, and I just leave it at that.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this. So, and I like to give an example because that's how I like to use. So maybe sometimes people hearing it from different people, they don't like it. So I'm an artist, right? I'm coming to you. I say, I'm doing music. I feel like the music is there, it's good music, and then this is like not something I'm just saying. People tell me it's good music, but maybe I feel like I'm not getting the right amount of support or whatever. But I'm trying to build myself as a brand, right? What questions would you ask, or what things would you want to know as far as helping that person brand themselves? Like, what kind of advice would you give them based on the question that you're asking?
Based on the question, so I would ask them. I would ask them like, "Who are you? What do you want to convey to the audience or your clients?" Because with branding, it's more about controlling the narrative on who you are. If you don't control it, then everybody else will control it. So if you call yourself, let's say, a Christian artist, or you're just a rapper who don't cuss. You don't talk about all that other stuff. You just don't do that. That's not you. So people brand you as a Christian rapper. You're like, no, I'm not. My faith is Christian, but I'm not a Christian. So you have to, creating a brand helps you to control that narrative. So I would ask them, what do you want people to think about when they hear your name? And then who's your target audience? Why are they your target audience? Questions like that. What challenges are you having?
Let me go a little deep. I'm gonna ask you, and that's what you said is perfect. What if they are, let's say they're a street rapper, right? Whether they are on the street or not, I really wouldn't know. But let's say they are. What could they do differently? And I only said it because everybody do that. I feel like that's like a common thing. Like, especially you live in a certain neighborhood, you're like, okay, I'm from the streets, I'm this, I'm that. Like, and based on their music and the stuff, you like, whenever you do your synopsis of them, whatever, like, you feel like, because sometimes people feel like this. They just feel like, I don't know if they feel like the way to get support is to complain about it, or if they feel like they voice their opinion, they're not getting support, people will start to do so. But I also feel like sometimes people don't give clear direction of what they want from people. Like, we doing this podcast, right? I always tell people afterwards, like, hey, if you can share it, many times you can just share it and like it. That's all I really care. I ask about. So if I do a podcast with somebody and then they don't share it, if I didn't tell them they didn't share it, not to share it, I can't really be upset. Like, man, they didn't share the podcast. I didn't tell them to. You would think, okay, they should because they own it. Yeah. But through my history, I found that that's not always the case. Yeah. So I try to give clear direction. Plus, in my real life, I manage, so I take that with everything. Yeah. But I feel like sometimes with people, artists, whether you brand them, whatever you're doing, sometimes when people do complain, I think they have done a poor job of really actually telling people what they wanted in return from whatever they was doing. So if you threw a party and you say, hey, come out, you want people to come to the party. Right. So nobody come out, you can say, well, I told them come. You know what I'm saying? But they didn't come. But you can't get mad at somebody coming. You like you just said the day of, party here. You really can't get upset. So I find like I be telling these artists or anybody, I tell them to get somebody who does this kind of thing, like strategists, and just do vision development, because sometimes you seeing through your own eyes, you only seeing the negatives. You're not even working on positives, which also hurt your negatives sometimes. Because when you complain about support and you got 500 people supporting you, they're like, well, why you not talking about us? In my mind, that's how I feel. I don't know.
Supporting you when we chop liver. So, but yeah, that's like if they're not reaching who they want to, they're just, to me, from the example you gave me, they're only using their music and influencing like their inner circle. That means like their closest friends. Yeah, your closest friends think you fire and everything, and then maybe they tell a few people who they're close to. So it doesn't really go outside the block. Right. So now you're popular in the block. So how do you get outside the block? You need somebody who's going to look at your brand and give you positive and relevant feedback, and help you to look at reality. Like, look, this is not going to get you here. You need to step outside of it. You need to, and with artists, it's like they're so focused on the music, they forget about the business side. And that's like with a lot of people. That's with churches, artists, speakers. They're so into their skill and their talent, they forget that there's the business side of it as well. Right. So how's the business side looking?
And you're right, and just to piggyback of that, I definitely would say I've told people once you get in the space where you feel like you can take this somewhere, it's very important to start looking for a team.
Right.
And not saying you can't be focused on the business side because it's your business, but you might want to have people in place to handle a lot of stuff, like just like you saying this stuff, the vision, everything you just said just now. I feel like people need to hear that. Like your friends are sharing your stuff, so that explains why you're only getting certain amount of support, quote unquote, in this area. Maybe not around the corner. You're not, because they're not from around the corner. I don't know.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? But if you want to expand, you have to start thinking expanding.
Right.
But that's when people like you come into place, a manager come into place. You got to get a team, and you have to start utilizing these people that's on the team, and and everybody. It's a team effort anyway. So. I definitely think that's important. And
then also just like educating yourself on what you do, and then where you want to go. So like if we look at somebody, I'm going to say like Jay-Z, like how he started. Now he's a straight businessman, but he didn't start like that. So at some point, maybe he got some mentorship. Maybe he decided, you know what, I don't want to rap my entire life. So maybe he started educating himself, and now you see where he started and where he's at now. Those are two different mindsets from where he started to where he's at right now. So you need somebody to help you look outside and look at the future plans. Like where are you going? Where do you want this to take you? Do you want to rap for all your life? Do you want to play basketball all your life? Is that realistic?
Right.
And you always having like what I call like a successor. Like after you built this, and now that you worked in your business, now it's time to work on your business. That means you are making money while you're sleeping. That's working on your business, setting things up so that you don't always have to be the point man for it.
Right.
And some people don't like to give away those reins to other folks. They like to be the admin, be the finance. Like you're gonna
you can't work through people.
Yeah, and rap at the same time. It's like you can't do that. You gotta trust somebody at some point.
And I feel like, like even what you just said, like I think, and I've had that in my life recently, just dealing with that. I feel like once you set your mind to what you want to do, you got a vision or you got a goal. You really have to make yourself uncomfortable sometimes to attain those goals. Because you're not going to get to them goals being comfortable. Exactly. So you're going to have to do some things you probably necessarily don't want to do. And I don't mean this in an illegal way. I'm just saying, in general, like it might be something you might not want to do.
Don't do anything legal.
Yeah.
Illegal.
Hey. I didn't know. Not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about something totally different. But even when you said Jay-Z, like, rapping probably been comfortable for him. Real comfortable. But then going to meet with them billionaires probably wasn't as comfortable. Yeah. But in order to get there, he knew he had to do that.
Exactly.
So definitely. I mean, all this probably going over a lot of people's head, but if they take it in, I think, it helps a lot. But back to you. I'm sorry. That was just, I wanted to get in that vision thing, man. I'm sorry. Being a keynote speaker, and I want to talk about this because I just did a podcast with a woman who's throwing a mother-daughter gala.
Sam?
Yes.
That's my girl.
And she had a keynote speaker there, and that term just stuck out to me because she got speakers there, but it's only one keynote speaker.
Right.
So I'm assuming that means like the main event speaker or like the top dog speaker there. Most important rather. I guess I hate to say that, but
Yeah.
And a workshop facilitator. So if you could explain that a little bit to me, but what those means and how you got into that.
So I got into speaking because I want to be a public speaker.
Were you ever shy?
I say I'm shy, but if you ask anybody, they're like, nah, she's not shy.
Well, I just wondered. Sometimes you grow into that.
Sometimes, like, I'm the person, I'll go ahead and volunteer. And then sometimes I'm voluntold. So it just, either way, if you give me the mic, then, I'm going to do whatever needs to be done. As far as speaking is concerned, I always wanted to be a public speaker. And so I decided to create my own events to give myself the opportunity. Then eventually I would get booked for other speaking events, and it just started like that. And then what I noticed as I was doing these speaking events is that it's good to do a speaking event, but you really impact people when you do those workshops because you can get more intimate with them. Right. You can ask more questions. You can have longer conversations with each participant. So,
your first speaking job, were you nervous? Like, do you remember your first time? Like,
my first
publicly speaking. Or did you get nervous at all?
I get nervous every single time.
Even next week, you're nervous for next week.
Yes, I get nervous every single time. Let me see. My first, it's either my mother's purse, and it was like a small event at Mac Academy, or I think it was a sermon I did. Either one, I was nervous with both, and I was like with my mother's purse. It was mostly young girls and their moms, mostly girls because it was at a summer camp.
Okay.
And their moms just happened. Some moms came out, so I was super nervous in front of like these, 8 and 10-year-olds because I still need to impact them, and I'm still going to give 100%. But I was so nervous and everything. So
how do you go about like shopping for? And I don't know if they need the correct word, but how do you get those jobs? And I only ask that because I feel like and you might can give me your opinion on this, because I do feel like sometimes it feel like scams. And I had this person on last year. I told her the same thing. You got people that throw, the word is not workshop, it's called something else, but you got to pay to come there, and they give you this PowerPoint that you can probably find on Google or whatever. But and it's like it's just sometimes I feel like it's just for the money. Sometimes how is it for someone like you who or even people like you that's publicly doing it professionally? Is it harder for y'all when you got somebody that can just wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm gonna be a motivational speaker today from now on, but they not really, they ain't do the proper steps to be one. They don't take public course, public speaking courses. They don't know how to write a speech. They don't know the components of a speech, which I know there are components to speeches. They don't know them things. So is it harder for y'all now that people can wake up one day and just be something?
No, not really, because everyone has their niche. Like first with me, I kind of evolved into the workshop thing. So if it's a workshop, listen, I'm there. If it's just regular speaking, I'll still be there, but I love workshops. For people who just want to wake up one day like, I want to be a public speaker, they'll realize once they get a gig, they'll realize, okay, now that this is over, let me go back and see what I can do better. Let me take, some classes or some master classes on how to speak. So it's not really hard. And then also, it's all about, I guess, your niche, because a lot of people, like, especially this year, most of my speaking gigs have been women empowerment stuff. So with companies. So I'm like, oh, okay, now companies are starting to look at me. So let me gear all of my work to appeal to them.
Got you.
So.
And I just wondered that because, you see that in somebody bio or something like that. And I never actually seen you speak. I don't know if you post snippets, and I see some people do that. I don't know if that's something you just start doing or what have you, but I wonder, like, how do they know, like, this the person? I want this person at mine. Like, how do they know to pick you?
I think it's the bio, because I am on a few speaker hubs.
Okay.
And
it's a community. It's a community.
Yeah.
Okay. Like resumes.
Yep, resumes.
Gotcha.
But the way the ones that I'm set, like, I don't know how they picked me. I asked them, like, one company, I spoke for a Tula skincare company, which is an international skincare company, and I asked her, I was like, well, how did you pick me? She was like, oh, I was just scrolling and your picture just stuck out to me. and then she said when she went to my profile, what I had on my profile resonated with the mission for the skincare company.
Gotcha.
So like your pictures, they're everything as well. Like, you have to make sure they're appealing.
You have a brand, so like, to do that. And this is funny because, like, I just recently I'm doing something different at the company I work for now. It's a higher position, right? And the whole time I've been there, I never had a resume. I never needed one. I was working there. I moved up and through the company there, right? But even to offer me that position, they was like, yeah, you gotta change your resume. This is not gonna work.
Yeah.
Even though they know I can do it, it's like, nah, you gotta change it. So, like, I had to go through all that. So people, I can applaud people like you that keep their stuff on a regular basis. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't have got that job. You know?
Yeah, and now I have to go back. Like when I had got the so I'm speaking at Wittenberg University at the end of this month, and I mean they just came out of nowhere. Now this is like a big deal.
Right.
So I'm like, oh Lord, the big gun is coming now. I was like, okay, how do I approach this? So I went to my mentor, and it's always good to have a mentor, someone who's where you want to go. So approached him like, hey, guess what? I'm famous. And I was like, how do I approach? He was like, okay, boom, boom, boom. He was like, follow these steps on how to give them a proposal and everything like that. So I followed those steps to a T, and they loved the proposal, and I got the job. But you have to just put yourself out there. I always tell people, like, say you want to speak for somewhere local like Payne College. What do you want to speak about? What department resonates with what you speak about? And they can either tell you yes or they can tell you no. Mm-hmm. But it's better to either get a yes or no versus just walking around thinking, I don't know if they're going to accept me. Right. Wondering and stuff. Just go ask them.
Yeah, just to put it out there too, anybody that's watching and they're getting ideas, it's not necessarily you getting paid to speak. It's more than just speaking.
Exactly.
Okay.
You always want to make an impact. So Wittenberg is about suicide prevention, which is like my heart. So, of course, I would have done it for free, just pay for my plane ticket.
I might cut that part out. I don't know. I'm like trying to lowball you now.
Yeah.
You're
cut
a black
that part
woman
out.
too. They be trying y'all sometimes, man.
Cut that part out. No. But yeah, it's just like, I really love that part. I know that's going to make an impact in someone's life. So you have to, it's not always about the money. I don't always charge people. So it just depends on what it is you're asking me to do and what the message is. So, I mean,
I can feel
you can pick and choose like who you want to charge, who you need to charge, or however you see it. But you definitely want to make sure you're making an impact and you're not just, talking about any and everything that has nothing to do with your brand.
Before we get into the mental health stuff, I do want to ask you something because you mentioned women empowerment, and you are a part of I don't know how many I'm gonna do, but the next few guests before y'all, I've been doing black women, so I've been just looking for black women to interview, podcasts with, right? Depending on what I got going. I know one I want to do like corporate America, how they treat it in corporate America, and I work corporate America, so I see a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily agree with. How do you feel black women are treated as far as in corporate America, I guess?
In corporate America, when I was in corporate America, I used to work, at the hospital, and then I also worked at Payne College. And I can tell you just the hospital's the best example because I could see how I was treated versus depending on how I looked. So if I were to go to the work like this, only certain people would talk to me. And I'm talking about like staff.
Gotcha.
I'm talking about the patients. the patrons there. But when I would have my hair, like pressed out and everything, everyone would want to ask me for directions or talk to me. So as a black woman in corporate America, it's a game you have to play.
So based on what you just said, like, do you feel like as a black woman in corporate America, you're working like, not saying you have to choose, but you have to be careful of when you, I don't know, I don't want to say be too black, but like look urban. Do you want like looking the look? Like, do you want to look like a black woman? Like, because that's to me right now is what I'm seeing. The pressed out is like they viewing it as something else. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like they already judging you based on your look.
Yeah.
As if you look like that, you're gonna be rude or I don't know, angry or something like that.
Yeah, and so it's like when I was working at a hospital, I had my hair like this. Maybe I would come to work and I decided to cut all my hair off. And I used to wear a brush cut. So I have a brush cut. But something clicked in my mind one day. I was like, you know what? I don't want people to put me in a box on how a professional black woman should look. Whatever look I come, that's the look you're going to get You know, that's the black woman you're going to get. Either, however I look, I'm still going to give you professionalism. So that's why I actually did that on purpose, because I didn't want them to put me in some type of box like, yeah, Danielle, she got her hair straight today, so we know her work going to be on point. She's going to be super nice to everybody. And then when I come with my afro just in full glory, it's like, oh Lord.
Well, what about emotion standpoint? I've seen that a lot, and and I'm not a black woman, so I can't tell a woman how to react. I could just tell them what I think, how I think you'll be viewed. Is it hard, or do you feel as a black woman in corporate America, or just in America, in anything you're dealing with, you have to pick and choose like when to show your emotion, or is it looked down upon y'all showing emotion versus a man showing emotion?
Yeah, because I think like, especially with black women, we get that whole angry black woman type thing. But my opinion about that is if the situation justifies my anger, then if that's the appropriate response, not being disrespectful, angry, just anybody, but you can have like a white woman go completely off. And then if a black woman's put in the same situation, she's kind of shamed anyway. Oh, girl, you should have it. Now you look like the mad black woman. And now people talking about her like, listen, this, the white woman did the same exact thing, and her response was appropriate and my response is appropriate. So I used to work with a company where I was one of only 2 black people in the entire building. So me and another guy, that was it. And so like with me, I decided, I'm like, listen, I'm professional. I know my job, but I'm a unique person. I have my own feelings and my own mind, and I'm going to speak on things that I feel I need to speak on. So during that time, I believe it was, what was it? Was it Trump and Obama going? No, I know it was around the voting time. Okay, election time. So it was like Republicans and of course, half the building was a Republican. Right. So they would come in saying they stuff that I would be like, listen, if you want to have this conversation, we can have this conversation. But just like you don't hold back, I'm not going to hold back. And don't think, we're not going to do this whole black-white thing. We're just going to talk how we talk. So, and I learned that from the military as well. So in the military, there is no, and I like to say like everybody is a brother or a sister. So we would clown on each other. It doesn't matter what your culture or your race is. Like we're clowning. Like if I trust you to watch my back in war, then we're going to clown the way we clown. Got family now. And yeah, so I wish everyone had that mentality outside the military. So it's like, if I'm clowning you, and I'm not going to tell you like some of the jokes and everything, but it's just like some of the stereotypes that you would hear, we would joke about that. And it wasn't like no one would get offended. Like, yeah, that's what I do. That's what I like. Oh, y'all
didn't cancel each other?
Huh?
Y'all didn't cancel each other?
Cancel each other?
Yeah, that's what they do in America now. They cancel you when you say something they don't like. So.
No, it's just like, if you clown on me, I'm clowning on you. If you joke about my culture, I'm going in on your culture. So, and at the end of the day, everyone was still friends. Everyone was still respectful of each other. After clowning, let's go get this vehicle together, or let's go back into the operating room, like whatever. So, it's just sad that outside of institutions like that, you have to deal with those those red tape areas, right? Because if not, people will get super offensive.
Well, with you being in the military, do you see a tremendous difference with how women are treated versus military in corporate America? I know in military they fight for a lot of equality as well.
I think in the military, they're more open about fighting for equality. Like if you're being treated wrong as a woman, someone will, if you're not going to speak up, someone will speak up on your behalf. Outside, it's more like every man for himself.
True.
So.
True. All right. Well, I want to get into now, first I want to say September
Mm-hmm.
It's a month. I don't know if it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but I know it has to be, yeah, because I've talked about this before. And within that, you also have a day dedicated to suicide,
Mm-hmm.
right? You kind of deal with mental health,
Mm-hmm.
right? So can you talk about some things dealing with mental health as it relates to suicide, that you've talked about or dealt with in the past?
Mm-hmm. So, my story is I have a very personal relationship with depression and suicide. I found myself, depressed when I was in seventh grade, depressed and suicidal. And that came from an experience that I had. My best friend committed suicide when I was in seventh grade. So, yes, it's still happening. We still have these young people committing suicide. And I actually can't pinpoint what made her do it, but she did it. And that sent me down, a little rabbit hole of depression. And at first it started, just 1 or 2 days, and then it went on for weeks and then months. And, 12 years later, I'm just getting help for, depression and suicide. And so
Real quick, I did just look it up too. I want to make sure I'll be right if I say something about it. September is National Suicide Prevention Awareness Month. That's what it is.
that is.
And October something. My birthday October, so I remember October being something. Cause I went down that one year. So yeah, I want to make sure that's clear.
Yeah, Suicide Prevention Month is in September. But you can't talk about suicide without talking about mental health in general, because no one just wakes up and be like, oh, I'm going to kill myself today. Like, no, something got you to a mental issue, a situation got you to that point where you just woke up one day and was like, I'm gonna try to commit suicide today.
So, yeah, and I sent you a picture,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to go through that picture because I think that's the best way to talk about it. Just for me,
Yeah.
I don't like to talk about it too freely because then you say words you probably shouldn't say. I don't know, how. I don't know. It's
Oh no, the best way is to be completely honest and frank with people. Like, when it comes to suicide, you don't want to beat around the bush. You want to get straight to it.
Well, it has it's the picture I sent you and it says suicide versus suicidal.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to break. We could talk about each one. I'm gonna read it out. So suicide versus suicidal. So under suicide you have considered a tragedy. So suicide we consider a tragedy versus someone who's suicidal. It is considered attention seeking.
Yes.
And in today's age, especially with social media now, you do have people who are very outspoken, or they use social media very heavily, and they'll post things
right
that would fall under the suicidal category.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just say that, right? And then you have your group of people who say, they're just looking for attention and whatever going on. And then you don't get me wrong, you have some people that probably are doing that, which makes it worse for people that's really crying out for help.
Mm-hmm.
How do you view that?
The people who are crying wolf versus the people. This is how I look at it. If someone is crying wolf or they're trying to get attention by using suicidal thoughts or behaviors, I would say give them the same attention you would give someone else. Because here's the thing, like, if they're asking for help, then they're more apt to actually accepting the help. Mm-hmm. Who you need to watch out for are the people who have those signs of suicide, but they're not asking for help. That means they're really considering, like, they're serious about.
And they don't want to be deterred.
Exactly. They don't want to be deterred. So that was my situation. So no one knew, I was depressed. No one knew I was suicidal. It was a shock to everyone when I finally came out and was like, listen, I'm depressed, I'm suicidal. Everybody was like, what? Not Parks. This happened when I was in the military. And it was like, not Parks. Everybody from the commander down. There was like looking at me crazy, like, what are you talking about? When did you try to commit suicide? When I was at the ER, that was a time. When I went to the ER again, that was a time. When I went to sick call, that was another time. So it's just like, I wasn't asking for help because I was serious. I didn't want to be deterred at all.
Did people ask you questions when you were going to the hospital, like, or did you just kind of like shrug it off and tell them to do something else.
Yeah, I would. That's exactly what I did. I would shrug it off. I remember one time, and I just want to be just completely honest because everyone, because being honest and transparent is the best way to get through to somebody. So I remember one time being at the hospital, and I took a whole bunch of pills, and I was like, oh snap, this is it. Like, I'm going to actually die. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to die. I don't want to die right now. So called my NCO, told him I had a stomach virus. I was like, I feel sick. I've been throwing up, and I was throwing up. And when we got to the hospital, I was throwing up so much. I was actually throwing up chunks of pills. And so while I was up here throwing up these chunks of pills, when they would like turn their back, I would hurry up and dump it out, because if they saw that, I'm going upstairs immediately. Gotcha. No questions asked. So I was still so embarrassed, like there's always this stigma, even in 2021, there's still that stigma on being suicidal. Like, everyone's going to look at you with empathy. Ask her if she is okay today. Call her, like, no, don't do that. Do it. But that's why people don't say they're suicidal.
The other one says everyone feels bad. So suicide. After suicide, everyone feels bad.
Everyone feels bad because suicide doesn't affect the person who died. It affects everyone else. They're going to feel bad. They're going to feel like, how did I miss the signs? What were the signs?
They're left with the questions.
I feel bad that I was so busy. I didn't take time just to ask them how they're doing. What could I have done differently? And really, that's what kind of sent me down the rabbit hole when my friend committed suicide. I was just like, what could I have done differently?
With your friend, did you feel like now you're older? You 12 at the time. I think 7th grade, about 12. So
right now being
older, like, do you feel like when you look back that it were possible to see signs that you just being 12 years old, you don't understand?
At that age, I didn't understand it. I didn't really know too much about suicide. They didn't talk about it in the schools as much. But looking back, there definitely were signs. She would say stuff like, if I were to ever kill myself, this is how I would do it. And I would throw myself down the steps, or I would use my dad's gun, or, I don't feel good. She literally had all the signs, and it wasn't, and she never said, hey, I'm suicidal. Can you help me? But the signs were there. So had I been older and know what I know now, I probably would have caught it. But being that young, it was just like, girl, really? Right. So you don't want to ride the bus tomorrow and go downtown, type thing like that. So she definitely had all the signs. And because she was saying it and no one was recognizing those signs, it kind of puts you in a situation where, well, dang, no one does care. No one really doesn't care about me. Right. Because here I am saying how I would kill myself. Give y'all warnings. And no one's doing anything about it. So
it says for suicidal on the opposite spectrum of that, everyone feels irritated. So when somebody's suicidal, it's more irritation. You might avoid that person. He always talking crazy. I don't want to be around him. Like, he's weird.
Yeah. Oh Lord, he's coming with that negative energy, and they feel irritated. Even the person who's considering suicide feels irritated by you being irritated. Right.
Like, or they feel like they're bothered. So I think in turn, really, it pushes them even further, because they're like, well, they avoided me, so they must, and they avoided me for this reason. Right. So it must be okay if I do it.
Exactly. Or, this just proves that no one cares about me, no one loves me, so I might as well just stop talking about it. And that's the thing, like, if you have somebody who's talking about it and then all of a sudden they stop, it's like, okay, you all right? What's going on over here? Because you were talking about killing and I always say, I don't even say, suicide. I say, you were talking about killing yourself. I'd be completely blunt, because that's what it is. That's what you're doing. Suicide is almost like a pillow talk. You're trying to be nice and politically correct. So being completely direct.
That's why I read to read it, because I wasn't sure if, people, especially when you talk about certain things now that's touchy, there's just certain words that I want you to use. I wasn't sure. I don't be knowing until somebody send me a comment, they be like, hey, you probably shouldn't say that word. I don't know until, I don't research this stuff all the time. I just know a little bit about it. But I'm with you on the direct part, because if you direct with it like suicide and killing, it's like night and day. Those two different words to me. One feels like way more stronger than the other one.
Yeah, suicide, like, oh, you're trying to commit suicide. Why?
See, and soft voice.
Why? Or why are you trying to commit suicide? But the word, it makes you feel like what you're doing isn't going to hurt people who are going to be impacted by it. So versus saying, oh, you're trying to kill yourself, that really puts, dang, if I kill myself, you're really going to start thinking about the impact that's going to have on other people.
Right. It's also in the same breath. It says everyone is present when suicide happens, but everyone avoids the person when they suicidal. So them two are kind of the same to me. Irritated, so you avoid them, you kind of go a different way, or you don't want to talk to them. But as soon as something happens, or they do take their life or kill themselves, now everybody there, everybody at the funeral, everybody sad, everybody, oh, I should have seen it, I should have did this.
What happened? And we were just talking the other day, and
then we got the statuses of, oh, I'm here to talk, but it's like you wasn't here to talk to that person though, and they wanted to talk to you. Yeah. And I don't want to make it seem like it can't happen where it's understandable, because sometimes you don't see the signs. It's not like you're not totally ignoring them. Right. You really don't see them sometimes.
Yeah, and like with me, it was more of I was like in it to win it. Like, I'm going to do this. From the moment that thought came to my head when I was in 7th grade, it was like, I'm going to do this. So there's no need for me to tell anybody. I don't need to talk about it because I'm going to do this. Like, whether you want me to or not, this is going to happen. And so I wouldn't tell anybody. Therefore, because I knew what I wanted to do, you would never know, because my behavior never changed. Even though there's signs to watch out for people's behavior, my behavior never changed. I was still doing track. I was still on volleyball. I was still, gymnastics and band. Like, I was still doing everything as normal.
And you see, and I guess my question is, I don't know if it's even something anybody can answer, but when you have someone like that who isn't stopping their day-to-day routine, isn't changing, just being their normal self, so you can't see the signs, right? As opposed to you having someone who maybe just want attention for real, because that's what it comes down to. Some people do just want attention. They don't want to do that, but they want attention. But it's possible that they want attention so much they will do that.
Right. And then like thoughts like that are so dangerous, because even if they're just seeking attention, them just putting those seeds in their head is a recipe for disaster. Because say I'm just seeking attention, so I'm gonna say I'm just gonna commit suicide. You're putting those thoughts and those seeds in your head. So when you do run into an obstacle, that thought's gonna be the first thing that comes to your head. Right. That's gonna be your outlet. And then now you're in this hedonic, what I call a hedonic treadmill of trying to commit suicide, or cutting yourself, or burning yourself, or doing something that's kind of close to it, but not really.
Right. But I feel like, too, when you want attention, there's no telling the lengths you'll go for it. And this is on anything, not even just suicide. I mean, anything. People do wild stuff on social media just for attention.
Right. Challenge, and that's a suicide attempt right there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's all the same. I look at life that way. I try to always compare it to something so that people can understand when you break something down, like to the smallest fraction you can. So it says everyone wishes they saw the signs when suicide happens, but when someone is suicidal, everyone dismisses them.
They'll either dismiss it, or they will make you feel uncomfortable by giving you like way too much attention. Like,
like you just said, make sure you go check on them.
So, for instance, like when I came out with, when I was in the military, I was actually deployed when I was just like, you know what, I can't do this. Like, I knew, like I went down range when it was like 9/11 was kind of sort of just popping off and everything. So we were walking around with full clips every single day, like our weapons, and someone being suicidal, that's not a good combination. So I was just like, you know what? I didn't want to come out and say it because I knew it was going to happen. I knew they were going to put me in a hospital. I knew they were going to take my weapon away. I knew they were going to take all of my protective gear from me.
Is that with everybody or just because you're a woman? Is that would they do that with everybody?
They would do that with anybody.
Anybody that seems suicidal. Okay.
Yes. I knew they would, take my shoelaces from me so, you don't hang yourself. And so it's just like having all that, I felt so embarrassed, that this is happening to me. At the same time, I felt relief because I knew I was going to get help. But just going through that process. So when you can either ignore it, if you ignore it, then you're dismissing their words and their behavior because you're annoyed. Oh, there she go again. Mm-hmm. And then if you give them too much attention, it's like you're crowding them and like, this is why, now yeah. Because they're embarrassed. Not maybe they feel too crowded, but it's really they're embarrassed.
It's not the attention they wanted. It's not genuine attention now. It's more so you're trying to keep tabs on me, make sure I don't do this.
Yeah, exactly. And people don't want you to keep tabs on them. They want you to help them.
The last one says, everyone wishes they hadn't done it when suicide happens. But when someone is suicidal, no one believes they'll ever do it.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like when someone says they're suicidal, believe them. Right. Take that seriously. Ask them what's going on. Be frank with them. Do not beat around the bush. That's the best advice I can give you. Do not beat around the bush. If you see your friend, all of a sudden his behavior has changed, a major event in his life just happened and now his behavior has changed, I would ask him like, dude, what you trying to kill yourself? What's going on? And sometimes they'll say, well, I have been thinking, like they'll be honest with you, but just trying to be slick with it, hey, how you doing today?
Right. They're going to pick it up.
Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. Well, just checking on you, an hour and a half later, just checking on you again. You find it's like that gets annoying. Right. Now you blocked.
and I feel like too, if you assume that they'll do it, the worst that can happen is, hopefully they don't. But the worst that can happen, if they're not really going to do it, is they just don't do it. And maybe you feel like they want attention. But at least you took the proper steps to where nothing tragic did happen. Right. I seen something last year, and I don't want to get in too deep because I don't want to be detailed, but. It was a guy who committed suicide, and sometimes you could tell. Like you get the news somebody passed, but you don't know how. But you can kind of tell based on how people are.
What happened?
So it was a guy, and I think he had sent out some text messages. Now, of course, and I know people feel bad because they probably went on about their day, but I think the text message read something like, "Hey, if something happened to me, take care of my kids." But I don't think that's something you would regularly say on a daily basis, out of nowhere. But he had sent them that day, like to everybody, it seemed like. But everybody kind of ignored it. Right. To an extent, because some people didn't reply, Just like, whatever. So, something like that, I think, situation like that, I'm not happy it happens, right? But I'm able to look at it. I always learn through people's mistakes sometimes. Exactly. So when my brother tells me something, if I feel like it's something depressing, I call him or I'll go drive to him. I don't want to text because I don't know, you might be ignoring me now. So now they're going to find you. Right. And we're going to talk, And that's just how I've always been. Like when it comes to something like that. Everybody got people in their family, or I know people that dealt with depression. Maybe not suicide, but that all it's all in the same category because that can lead to that. But I've always been big on talking about depression. I know me being black, sometimes I think for a while it was taboo to talk about it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But
we don't do that.
I told her what that word meant last week, taboo. She didn't know what it meant, but yeah. So I think now I'm happy now that people talk about it more. It's still gonna happen, but I would assume just being educated on it helps a lot. With you talking about it, like, do you know? Are there any myths that to your knowledge, or any like misinformation out there on suicide? Kind of sometimes like with depression, people think depression just being sad all the time. That's not true. You can be happy. You can look happy and still be depressed. Exactly. You can be overly happy, and that sometimes screams depression. That was me,
and that was the thing. Like when I came out and let everybody know, like, listen, I'm depressed, and I said it just like that. I was like, I'm depressed. I'm suicidal. I'm gonna kill myself. Y'all take my gun from me. I need to see a psychologist immediately. I have a background in psychology and Christian counseling. So I kind of knew the steps that I was about to go through, but I need this right now. Like, go ahead and do it. And then with depression, one of the myths to me, and from other people and they agree as well, but depression, it does. If you've been depressed for a long time, which is clinical depression, that's years of depression, not depression. You're depressed for about 6 months,
Right.
and then you're good for the rest of the year. Clinical depression is every single month, every single year, every single day.
Going years.
Yeah. So for me, that was 12 years. Every single day I'm depressed. Every single day I'm trying to figure out, okay, the Tylenol didn't work, but maybe, drinking chlorine. Like, I did all of that stuff. Cut myself, everything. So depression, when I finally came out and asked for help, just between the time I got help and now, my firm belief is depression doesn't go away. You have to learn how to cope with it. And coping with it means changing your mindset, changing things that you do daily, and being adamant and consistent with being more mindful of your actions and of your words. So it doesn't go away. And there's a lot of people, especially like if you're a Christian, like I'm a whole minister. And I'm telling you, like, I still have to cope with depression. Like, however you're going to cope with it, make sure you do it. If you feel like you need to take medicines, do that. If you need therapy, please go to therapy, see a professional.
What about marijuana?
Marijuana.
I don't smoke weed. I just want to know. People probably asking that question right now. What about weed? What about weed?
If they do weed, and that sounds so old when I just said that.
Weed does sound wild.
If you do weed, let's say I just showed my whole real age. It's not going to help, because once you cut in any type of drugs, once you come down from that high, you still have to deal with yourself. You still have to deal with your thoughts. So unless you're going to stay, and I'm not saying do it, but unless you're going to stay high 24/7, and at some point it's like you're either going to commit suicide, and it's almost like you are committing suicide, because from what I've heard, I don't know this, personally. Doing something for so long, you get a tolerance of that. So you go for the harder stuff, and it's almost like committing suicide, because now you're taking something that is probably going to kill you. So drugs will not help.
Weed is a depressant, isn't it? So it just puts you in that state a little more. Right?
Yeah, it'll make you.
It causes you to think more. They slow you down, that you think more. To my knowledge, I know people want to use, but to my knowledge.
Yeah, to my knowledge. Yeah. I mean, not personal. No,
yeah, I don't know,
not personal knowledge. But yeah, any type of drugs, any type of substance, that's not going to help you long term. So long term means getting to the root of your problems. Like, why? What caused you to be depressed? What was the catalyst to this?
I know, like my dad. I think my dad was like that. He's like clinically, I guess, depressed. But I think with him, what he does is like he'll do the medicine and stuff until he feel like he okay, and then he stops.
Yeah.
But then he get depressed,
right?
And I think that's an issue too.
Oh yeah.
You got to do what is helping you, not until, because like you said, like, it's not a one day thing, it's an ongoing thing. And I think I don't have it, but I think sometimes you have to like look it in the face and then deal with it.
Right. And then sometimes it's like, if he knows, it's all about knowing yourself. So I've done the whole therapy thing, and I'm very aware of my thoughts and my behaviors. And so therapy to me is okay for me personally, but I know I can be consistent with something like medicine if I need to take it.
Right.
And I'm gonna be honest, like, I want to be completely transparent. I have been on antidepressants, and everything like that. So if that's what helps you, do what helps you. So, and know your weaknesses. So if you know, if you're a person who's on these antidepressants and, anxiety medicines or whatever you're taking. If you know for a fact you don't take it every day like you're supposed to, then therapy may be better for you, because now you can get out and you can talk to somebody. You can get those thoughts out of your head so you don't act on them, because every action starts with a thought. So you just got to know yourself.
So I feel like when it comes to depression, I think that it is good to get educated, not just once, but often, because you never know if you're dealing with it or somebody is dealing with it. When you go to these events, what's the mood like?
The mood, it starts off fun. I like to keep it light in the beginning, but then, like I said, we gotta get down to business. Especially if I'm talking about, depression and suicide. Like, we gotta get down to business, because I know for a fact, it doesn't matter. Like, if the crowd is, 500 people, I know at least, if not 450, all of y'all have thought about suicide at one point in your life. So it's a very serious talk. It's a serious situation.
Well, before we ended, I wanted to talk about one more thing, because I got a young daughter here, and it's a Princess Pearls. Is that correct?
Princesses, Pearls, and Puberty.
Can you tell me a little about that? Because I'm dealing with a 9-year-old now. So.
Yeah, so Princesses, Pearls, and Puberty is my nonprofit. We educate girls and their parents about their puberty, their menstrual. Of course, we deal with mental health and then personal safety. So all of that is included when you come to one of our events. It's a free community event. We give away pads, we give away literature about puberty, and the girls have a fun time. So it's set up almost like a birthday party. Like, I want the girls to have a lot of fun, but I want them to be educated on what's going on with their bodies. Schools nowadays, they don't teach you about puberty. They'll have a sex talk with you, little form your daughter will bring home, and you got to sign it like, yeah, I'm okay with her going to that class this year or going to that little seminar.
Right.
But they don't talk about, puberty. So you have girls who may be about 12, 13 years old and don't know what to do when they come on their period. Don't even know what a pad is. And so, and another thing, we really advocate for period poverty. There are girls right here, girls and women right here in Augusta, Georgia. When you hear about period poverty, you think a third world country where they don't have a lot of money. But no, right here in Augusta, Georgia, I have found out that there are girls who miss school because they don't have pads at home. So therefore they can't go to school because they have no way to, deal with their period in a respectable manner. So that's the main reason why we give away pads. So now we've been in the community for about 4 years now, which is amazing. And now we're kind of building everything up so we can start giving away at least whole packs of pads, because we know pads nowadays, like whenever you get there with your daughter, those things are expensive. Like, I have fathers come like, I didn't know those things were expensive. They are expensive, and don't let your daughter or your wife or whoever have a heavy period. So now you're spending like $10-$20 because they're going through that whole pack. And there are girls who actually go through whole packs, before that week's over. That is a lot of money. You don't want to get like the cheap stuff because it doesn't work as well. So, I mean, we talk about that. We talk about periods like all day, and then like puberty. So that means the breasts growing, the odors, the hairs, how to take care of yourself when all that starts, hygiene. My educational director, Lindsay Johnson, she is amazing. Like, she goes all the way in with it. And so if you have a daughter between the ages of 9 and 12, this is the perfect place for them to be.
So how can they get in contact with you to do that? Like, is it a time frame, a date, something?
We do it every single year in March. So usually it's the third week in March. We kind of moved it to the fourth week every single year. We did go national last year since we were able to do it online. So now it'll be streamed, and hopefully we can go back in person because I miss my girls. I miss seeing them. So hopefully we can have our in-person party next year, and it will still be streamed. So we always put it out on Facebook, all the outlets, radio. We're probably gonna start doing radio commercials, but we usually have a big crowd. We always max out for a crowd.
I think that's dope. And even if you, and I think if people watch this and they reach out to me and they say maybe something about this particular portion of it, I definitely wouldn't mind helping, like maybe bringing a girl here and you talk to that person. I don't know how it would happen, but just something so that maybe they can't wait till March. Something in the meantime. People can watch that as well, you know.
Definitely. So. Our party from this year in March, it's still on our page. So if you go to our page, Princesses, Pearls, and Puberty, just go to our videos, and our party is there from last year. It is an hour long. In person, it's an hour long. So we wanted to make sure, you don't. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you're doing online or coming in person. You still want to get that hour.
Gotcha. Well, this was definitely dope talking to you. You're a great speaker, by the way.
Thank you.
Sometimes
this was fun.
I like the challenge of about asking how many podcasts they've done. I like the challenge of just challenging myself. Sometimes when they haven't done one, there's nothing to compare me to, you know. But then they have done a few. I try to challenge myself and just making sure they're comfortable, making sure they comfortably speaking. And I felt that with you. So I think it's a good one. I think even the stuff you bared and told people gonna watch. I know you're not. I probably still don't know that you was like that. So I think it's gonna be dope. But it's definitely was amazing. So.
Oh yeah, and before we go, let me just give out this information since we are in, Suicide Prevention Month.
Definitely. What do you think?
Let's see. So if you are thinking about suicide or you're depressed and you need help, I'm always available to you. You can look me up. I am DANI PARKS on IG. Or DANI PARKS on Facebook. It doesn't matter. You can hit me in my inbox. I'm here for you. And then also the 24-hour suicide prevention lifeline. The number is 1-800-273-8255. And you can always go to www.ndbh.com. And they have suicide resources on there if you are in communication with someone who's thinking about suicide. They can help you help them. But like we said, be direct with them. Don't play around with it. Go in for the kill, to kill that thought.
Definitely.
Kill that thought so that they can live.
This was dope. So shout out to you once again.
Thank you.
Give me IG one more time for me.
So it's I am _DANI PARKS.
All right, One Master Podcast. We out.